Dedham, Massachusetts, one of the state's oldest towns, was incorporated in 1636. The first public school in America was established here in 1643, and the oldest surviving timber frame house in the U.S. still stands here. Needless to say, a lot of history here in Dedham, but it's also a community that really actively embraces and celebrates its long history, even holding on to parts of it that you might have thought they would have let go of by now. For example, see any horses around here? Exactly. So there's a rash at one point of horses being stolen in Dedham, and so it was considered like a real community problem.
It was, and there really wasn't any type of organization to deal with it.
For starters, the rash of horse thefts in Dedham was over 200 years ago, and Dedham native and attorney Kevin Hampe has never prosecuted or defended a horse thief. He is, however, the current treasurer and clerk of the Society in Dedham for Apprehending Horse Thieves. When was the last recorded apprehension of a horse thief in Dedham?
It was approximately in 1906.
But it was a different story in 1810 when 13 men met across the street from Dedham's courthouse at the Marsh Tavern. This is where it started.
Exactly.
Right?
Yep.
To do something about what was then, pre-car, a big problem if you lost your horse.
Basically what they did is a group got together and formed a society and decided that we had to put an end to it.
Ultimately, it was the advent of the automobile, not the society, that put an end to it, but the Society for the Apprehension of Horse Thieves lives proudly on now, faithfully meeting once a year.
We pick anywhere between 5 and 10 of the people at the meeting to take an oath that in the event that there is a horse missing, that they will ride out and try to find it.
Indeed, significant but little-known history endures all over Dedham, including America's oldest surviving wood frame house, the Fairbanks House, built in 1637, and which may owe its longevity to the fact that it wasn't built by mere carpenters.
That it was built by shipbuilders who were very talented and exacting.
I assume you must be continuously surprised that there are people in Dedham who don't even know about the house?
Oh, sure. I mean, it kind of sticks out in the neighborhood, you know.
A little bit. At the Dedham Museum and Archive, a remarkable local treasure trove of who knew history.
The history here is amazing in Dedham.
For Executive Director Johanna McBrien, it can be hard to know what to show off first. No ordinary bell.
No ordinary bell.
This is the smallest bell that Paul Revere made. And, don't sit here, the oldest dated chair in America. And it says right there, 1652.
There were pieces made earlier, but this is the first one with a date on it. We're very lucky here, and we preserve it. We share it with the public.
Also shared with the public and also unique in the nation?
This is the only town forest that's located completely within the median strip of a major highway.
Yes, believe it or not, the entrance to Dedham's Town Forest is on an overpass above the north and southbound lanes of busy Route 128. Different doesn't begin to describe it. You're in lush woods right here. There's just a major interstate highway on both sides.
That's right, yeah, very unique.
Like most residents here, it took years for Dedham native and former teacher Jim Parr to realize that a chunk of the town's historic town forest, which dates back to the 1920s, survived the building of Route 128 here in the 1950s, even though it was directly in the highway's path. But then, so was a lot of rock.
And it would have been too expensive to blast their way through the middle of the forest. So they actually, built the road on both sides of the forest. It's about a mile long, and that's how the forest was saved.
77 acres, to be exact, of rolling woods that would otherwise be pavement today. Instead, a small network of trails wind their way through, never far from the sight and sound of the highway, creating the strange sense of hiking deep in the woods, yet hidden from tons of people only yards away. Thousands and thousands every day driving by here.
Right.
No idea.
Have no idea. Well,
that you can stand in here.
Yeah.
Doesn't make me want to hurry back to my car, I'll tell you that.
No, it is very peaceful.
Very and very little known. But now, as you whiz by and glimpse those woods in the middle of 128, you'll know there's a bit more than meets the eye with this highway median.
That is pretty crazy. All right, and Dedham's Town Forest first opened in 1927, about 30 years before the highway came through.
Yeah, after that decision to go around rather than blast through all that rock, the state actually took control of it for about 20 years, but then returned all 77 acres of the forest land to the town of Dedham. That was in 1973, and it's been like that ever since.
For so